Hello, and welcome to this video introduction to Crescendo. Crescendo is the pre-programmed vocabulary that comes with Proloquo2Go. It's based on research and language development in AAC, as well as our clinical experiences with AAC users. To create a new Crescendo user, you tap the gears to open the options, and then go to the section marked User. Tap Add User. You'll see a wizard that will walk you through the steps for creating a user. I'm going to name this user Karen. Now I choose the language and region for Karen. I'm going to choose Australia and tap Next. Now I choose the voice to use. I'm going to choose Olivia because that's the Australian voice I've already downloaded.
Hello, I am Olivia.
I could also choose a voice that hasn't been downloaded yet, and Proloquo2Go would start downloading it in the background for me if I'm connected to the internet. Now I pick a vocabulary to start with. Crescendo was already selected for me, so I'll just tap Next. Here's where I choose the vocabulary level. Crescendo has 3 different vocabulary levels inside it. These vocabulary levels let you create a single Proloquo2Go user and keep using it as you develop more language skills by just changing the vocabulary level. The default vocabulary level is Intermediate Core, so I'm going to choose that and tap Next. Now I need to make sure that my device is held in the orientation I want to use it in. This iPad is in landscape orientation, and that's the orientation that most people use, so I'll leave it like this and tap Next. This shows me what Intermediate Core will look like with the default grid size, 5 by 9. I can choose a different grid size by tapping the plus or minus buttons. I can always go back and pick a different vocabulary level if I want. I'm going to do that to show you what the basic communication vocabulary level looks like. This is basic communication at its default grid size for landscape. As you see, it's quite different from Intermediate Core. Basic goes all the way up to 5 by 9, but not further. Let's leave it here at 3 by 6. I tap Next. I'm not going to bother with any advanced setup right now, so I'll tap Next again. Now I tap Finish, and it's making the Karen user for me. So let's explore the basic communication. This vocabulary level has support for very early reasons to communicate, mostly requesting and some early commenting. Let's see some of the things you can say with basic communication.
I want more crisps. I need help. I like park. I want to go home.
And I can provide a little bit of information.
My name is.
Of course, I want to customize this to say my real name. I'll go into edit mode by tapping the pencil and change it. I tap the button to select it and bring this up and tap the text to speech and add Karen. You can see that the text to speech is my name is Karen, while the label is my name. The label and the text to speak don't always have to be the same.
My name is Karen.
The basic communication vocabulary level is available in grid sizes 3 by 3 to 7 by 7. I'll show you some of these sizes. Here's 3 by 6, 4 by 8, 5 by 9, and then back to 3 by 6. You'll notice that in basic communication, it's very difficult to combine single words to make sentences, and you're limited to mostly requesting. This is why we recommend, as much as possible, that people use one of the core vocabulary levels. To do this, I go to Options, Vocabulary level. You'll see that instead of a single core vocabulary level, we have two. Let's pick Intermediate Core for now. It's the level we usually recommend people use. We'll cover Advanced later. Core words are those words that we use for about 80% of what we say and write every day. We've designed our intermediate and advanced core vocabularies so that the most useful and frequently used core words are on the home page, which you see here. I'll switch the grid size to 7 by 11, which gives a rich selection of core words. Let's try a couple of sentences.
Put it down. Put it down. I want to know who will go with me. I want to know who will go with me.
You can see that there are a lot of very useful words on the 7 by 11 grid size homepage, so we had to do little or no navigating to say these sentences. But what if 7 by 11 is too big a grid size for someone? Can they still say what they want to say using a smaller grid size with bigger buttons? Let's switch to 5 by 9. Now let's try Put It Down. The home page in 5 by 9 doesn't have room for the verb put, so we'll go to the Actions folder. In Intermediate Core, this folder has the most frequently used verbs that there wasn't room for on the home page for the current grid size.
Put it.
Now let's find Down. It also isn't on the home page in 5 by 9. We can look for Down in the Little Words folder. Little Words acts like a backup home folder. Here you can find words that are frequently used for a lot of different purposes, but don't fit on the home page in the current grid size. You'll notice that Little Words has auxiliary verbs like can and will, very general describing words like all, demonstrative pronouns like this and these, and frequently used prepositions like from and with. These are the little words we need to make grammatical sentences. Little Words is your first place to look for grammatical words you can't find on the home page.
Down.
Now for our next sentence.
I want to know who will go with me.
We have more pop-up folders for useful words of different word kinds. In 5 by 9, we don't have room for those on the primary level of the home page, but they're on secondary. Here are some preposition words in the Where folder. Some articles in the Which folder. Conjunctions. Note that some words, like the conjunctions and and or, and the articles a and the can be found in little words and these other more specific folders. We made the decision where to put these words on a case-by-case basis. We chose to put and, or, and the in little words because they're very frequently used, so we wanted them to be easily available on the top level of the home folder. They're also such abstract words that they can be difficult for language learners to classify. It takes a lot of grammatical knowledge to know that and is a conjunction, for example, but it's a word that typically developing children use very early. Before we leave the home page, I want to show you some other pop-up folders that may save you some steps in making sentences. I touch and hold to get the pop-up for some. In 6x10, I touch and hold to get the pop-up for can and can't. In 7x11, I've got a pop-up for will and won't. In 8x12, I've got a pop-up for don't, doesn't, and didn't. 8x14, I've got a pop-up for could and couldn't. In 8x16, I've got a pop-up for would, wouldn't, and should and shouldn't. And by 9x16, I've got pop-ups for any, every, and no. So now you can see that depending on your grid size, you can really say a lot with the core words and pop-ups on the home page. But what about those really specific words you need, like dog or taco or mom or sad? These are called fringe words. You don't need them as often as you do core words, but when you need to say something very specific, you need fringe words. We've organized the fringe words in category folders. You can reach these folders using the folder-shaped buttons that you'll find at the bottom of the home page. I'm going to switch to a slightly smaller grid size so you can see these buttons a little bit better. Let's look at the feelings folder. One thing you may notice when we switch back and forth between feelings and the home page is that a lot of the buttons are the same and stay in the same place. As you get to larger grid sizes, so for instance 6x10, you'll see that more of those core words from the home page are available on the fringe page. The way we keep the core words in the same place for home and fringe is by using templates. We have templates for different categories of fringe words. If I go to Options and Vocabulary and Edit Templates, here's where I see a whole list of the templates that come with Crescendo. We've got them split into categories. Here are some templates that are really designed for nouns at the top, situational for more activity-specific pages, and grammar for adjectives and nouns. The activity templates can also be used to create your own activity-specific displays. We'll cover activity templates in detail in another video. You can tell by the numbers that come after each one of the templates how many folders are using those templates. Our templates are available in 23 different grid sizes and 3 vocabulary levels. We've created the template so that if a word appears on the home page and on the template, it will be in the same location on both. This means that if you learn where a particular word is on the home page, you'll know where to look for it on fringe folders. How do I know if a folder is using a template? I'm going to go into Edit mode in Feelings, and if I look at the Folder tab and look at the Template row, I can see that this folder is using the Adjectives template. If I tap here, let's see, if I tap here on the I at the end of the row, I can even see a preview of that template. You'll also notice that some of the buttons have T's on them and are slightly dimmed. These are the template buttons. If I tap on one of these, I'm told that I can only edit the button in template edit mode. This is to keep people from accidentally changing the templates. If you change a template in one folder, every folder that uses that template will see those changes. I'm going to change the grid size in Quick Options to show you that more and more core words appear as the grid size gets bigger. And at smaller grid sizes, you have fewer core words. You'll notice that the buttons that are not on the template have their background slightly colored with the same color as their borders. I'll switch to 5x9 where it's a little easier to see this. This is to help these buttons stand out from the template buttons. This effect can be fine-tuned or turned off altogether. You go to Options and Appearance, scroll down to the button area, and you'll see a background color row. The top row tells me I'm color coding the buttons. It gives me the choices of turning this off, so I can now see the buttons all have a white background. All means that every single button, whether it's in a template or not, should have this background color effect, or fringe only, which is our default. In color intensity, you can change how bright the background color is. So I can change it to light, pale, or all the way to bright, which means that the border color and the background color are the same. I'm going to switch it back to bleached, so it's a more subtle effect. If I go to Home and back to Feelings, you can see that this coloring really does help these buttons to pop out a bit more from the buttons that are the same on the template and on the home page. We've been showing you intermediate core up till now. We have another vocabulary level called advanced core. It's very similar to intermediate core, but it's more optimized for people who already have good categorization skills. I'll show you how this works in the food folder. If I go to secondary, I see a number of subcategories for different meals and different kinds of food. On primary, here, these are probably my favorite foods that I want to talk about without having to navigate. What we've done here is put foods that we find a lot of people often want to talk about. But of course, food preference is highly individual, so you'll definitely want to customize the primary level of food for each individual. So what happens when we go to advanced core? I'll do that now. You see that these subcategory folders that were on the secondary page are now on the primary page, and you don't have any food buttons on this main food page. If you want to mention a specific food, you've got to go into a subcategory. Another folder where you can see this is the People page. Now we're in the advanced core vocabulary level, so these subcategory folders take up most of the space in primary, and there is no secondary. If I switch to intermediate core, you can see we have more space to put in your very favorite people, plus a few key categories, and you need to go to secondary to get to all of the rest of the categories. Food, people, and places in intermediate give you plenty of space in primary to put your favorite words where you want to see them right away. For this to be useful, you'll need to customize these folders to put favorite foods, people, and places in these folders. What is there when you create a new Crescendo user is just our guess at what most people want to have handy in these categories. You'll find out more about customizing the vocabulary in this way in another video. There are two other folders that are quite different in intermediate and advanced, actions and describing words. You don't need to customize these folders for them to be effective. We've created lists of the most frequently used and powerful verbs and adjectives. We put the most useful verbs and adjectives on the home page, as many as we have space for in each grid size. Verbs and adjectives that are useful but don't fit on the home page can be found in the Actions or Describing Words folders. Here's what these folders look like in Advanced Core. We've got subfolders here for different verb categories. So for instance, you can go into the sensing verbs for things like touch, try, and hear. The thinking verbs have a lot of verbs for things that happen in your head. Here are the A to Z verbs. You've got folders that have all of the verbs in the system organized by initial letter. As you can see, you need to have pretty good language skills to figure out the right subfolder to find the verb you're looking for. For intermediate core, we've made adjective and action words a bit easier to use. I'm going to go back to intermediate. You can see there's a lot of frequently used verbs to choose from on the primary level. If we go to secondary, we can see those categories are still there, but if what you want to say is on the first page, then you can just say it without having to navigate into the subfolders. Let's take a look at what describing words look like. As with verbs, we've got a lot of useful words right here on this level. If we go to secondary, we have those subcategories for various different adjectives, and we have another A to Z arrangement as well. I'm going to go back to actions and talk a little bit about how we designed the actions and describing folders. We made a list of verbs that are ranked by how frequently they're used and how powerful and generally useful they are for communication. For each grid size, we look at which of these verbs are already available on the home page. We don't want to repeat these on the actions page since we have limited space. We fill up the action page with as many of the useful verbs as we can, making sure that we don't put in more than will fill up the first screenful for that grid size to avoid scrolling. We made these decisions for all 23 different grid sizes, so you'll have more verbs available in larger grid size. This is your 5x9, and here's the 6x10 and the 7x11. By 7x11, we've got enough space in primary that we've even pulled in the subcategory folders. The same happens with describing words. So here's your 5x9, 6x10, 7x11. We still don't have enough room for all the subcategories in 7x11 in adjectives. We don't have enough room for those until 8x12, and then everything can fit on one page. In Crescendo, we've tried to include as many words as possible. We believe that everyone has a right to a rich vocabulary with lots of fringe words, along with an efficient set of core words for sentences and grammar structure. This means Crescendo contains thousands of fringe words. We've tried to organize the words as intuitively as we can. However, it can still be difficult to find exactly what you're looking for. To help with this, we've added a search feature to Proloquo2Go 5. There's a separate short video that shows search in detail, but I'll just give you a quick look at it here. I go to the Tools pop-up and tap the magnifying glass. A keyboard comes up and I can type in what I'm looking for. I get suggestions with symbols, so if I only know the first couple of letters, I may still be able to find what I'm looking for. I'll pick dog leash. I tap on the symbol I'm looking for, and Proloquo2Go walks me through the folders I need to navigate to find the word.
Dog leash.
Search works for all Proloquo2Go vocabularies, not just Crescendo. You'll have some decisions to make as you start using Crescendo. You'll need to choose a grid size and a vocabulary level. In general, we recommend you choose Intermediate Core and choose as large a grid size as possible in terms of the user's fine motor skills and vision. The larger the grid size, the more words on each page, and the less navigation you have to do to find the words you need. If you're concerned that the number of buttons on a larger grid size is overwhelming, you can use progressive language to temporarily hide buttons to start with. I'll turn on progressive language in Options and Vocabulary and pick the first language step. Now, only the very beginning words are shown. As I increase the language step, more words are uncovered. But the words that I learned before stay in the same places, so I don't have to relearn how to find them. The templates in the fringe folders are also affected by the language steps. On the last language step, all of the buttons are visible. We have another video that shows more details about progressive language. You can also find out more about how to customize Crescendo in our other videos. And don't forget to watch our backup videos to make sure all your customizations are saved. Thanks, and have fun using Proloquo2Go.